Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the workshop. In today's episode, we're gonna be forging an extravagant pizza cutter. But before we jump into that, let's thank today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is Skillshare, which is home to over 25,000 online video courses where you can learn anything from business to marketing to photography. You can learn it all there, and the first 1,000 of you that click the link in the description below are gonna be getting 2 months of Skillshare Premium for free. Thank you, Skillshare, for sponsoring this. Let's jump in. Before we jump into the project, I'm feeling pretty hungry right now, so we're gonna head to the store. So we've got ourselves our pizza. We've got ourselves our KM18T Pro double barrel Paragon kiln here. These puppies will be available soon through the Alec Steele Co. They're wonderful for both knife work and pizza work, depending on your trade. They're better for one. I'll let you figure that out for yourself. We're gonna go ahead and cook ourselves up a little bit of lunch now. We also have this small little pizza here, and that will go in the KM9T double barrel. Looking good. Wonderful. We'll let that sit for about 20 minutes or so. A wee bit crispy, and by a wee bit, I mean a lot bit. So Alec tried to tackle this project a while ago, and it just ended up being a little bit cumbersome. So I think with a little bit of engineering, we can come up with an even more efficient way to cut a pizza than a Viking battle axe. You know, it works pretty well. As you can see, you've got this nice round blade that you can roll across the pizza. But you know, it's just hard to often get confused. People think that you're just raiding English villages, stuff like that. And so something maybe a little bit more low profile, something still pretty cool, I think is gonna be a really good solution and a very fun project. So, let's go ahead and get to designing. So we've got about 36 inches of usable material here. We're gonna cut that into 9 4-inch long pieces, restack it, forge it back together. So we've got ourselves this big old fat chunk of steel. It's 9 layers of W's now. Our next step is gonna be cutting it down the center all the way along the billet. And the reason for that is that we can then take it and give it the old switcheroo, and this just looks a little bit flamier and I think a little bit nicer. It's still the same pattern essentially, but it has a much more explosion-y feel to it. So now that we've got those pieces switcherooed over, we're gonna take our feather cutter in the press and hot cut all the way down the bar, which will drag those layers a little bit, make it a little bit more dynamic, so that when we stack it up in a cool swaging die pattern that I found, it'll look really, really nice and kind of unidirectional, which will be super fun. So now that we've got the bar forged down a little bit, we're gonna let it cool down, grind out those welds, and while it's cooling down, we're gonna weld a little tang onto the end of this thing just so it can be held securely in our tooling ring for the Yang Yang power hammer, and then we're gonna need to figure out exactly which size of bar is gonna fit best into this triangular pyramid. What's the name for this? Trapezoid? This trapezoidal swaging die. So, this is pretty exciting. This didn't come out exactly how I thought it was going to. In my initial sketch, I figured it would go kind of all the way around in kind of a straight line like this, but what actually happens is it's more of a dip and a bow. And so, it still looks really cool. It'll be a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more star-shaped of a pattern. It'll go like that all the way around. My next step is gonna be figuring out kind of what angle I need to grind these at, because right now, they don't fit up perfectly. There's a little bit of a gap here, and so that means that on that entire length of bar, I'm gonna have to take off a little bit of material towards the inside corners here so that they fit up just a little bit tighter. Our hex billet is ready to weld up. However, I think I'm gonna hold off on that. I have an issue. If we just cut off a 3/4 inch piece and upset it into the size of blade that we need, that we're gonna have a lot of distortion around the edges, and the first probably 1/2 inch or so of the actual steel itself won't look like this cool pattern. And so to avoid that, I'm gonna build up a bar of W pattern, very similar to this, and then we're gonna twist that and cut that and stack it all the way around the edge. So we'll have kind of a multi-bar composite style mosaic happening here. That should look really good. So we've got this bar here. I'm gonna cut this into 4 pieces, stack it in a 4-way like a regular explosion mosaic, and then draw it out and twist it. Okay, so here we have our bar of twisted steel. The plan here is to take one piece, throw it on one side, and then throw the other piece on the other, and that means that I can line up that angle of cut, and I'll have a lot less waste if I stagger them back and forth like this, than if I were to go ahead and just line them all up on one side. And since it's a twisted bar, the pattern will still continue really, really well despite that. We're so close to where we need to be, but we're not quite there yet. We're gonna give it a couple more good hits under the Chambersburg. Hopefully we'll get there. Well, we got this thing all stuck together and it's looking fantastic, and we're gonna have to call it there for today's episode.
Today's episode has been sponsored by Skillshare, which is one of the largest online learning communities in the world, where you can connect with other creative and curious people like yourself and learn a whole myriad of skills so that you can develop personally, professionally, in business, in life, all of that fun stuff. With the world in turmoil and things being a little bit uncertain, now is the perfect time to pick up some new skills and invest in yourself with Skillshare courses. You can learn how to take better photos, learn how to write better emails, and even learn about bookkeeping so that you can help your business succeed by better knowing how to crunch those numbers and stay compliant. The great thing is, though, is you actually only need to invest your time right now, because the first 1,000 of you that click my link in the description are going to be getting 2 months of Skillshare Premium for free. You can explore all of their classes, learn all sorts of fun stuff, and then from there, it's only $10 a month. So be sure to check out my link in the description. Get yourself started with Skillshare. Thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring us. We can't wait to see you all very soon. Hit a like if you enjoyed this video, subscribe if you're new. Bye-bye.